Did aliens really inspire our ancestors to build ancient temples and pyramids? And if they came here, did they leave behind any advanced knowledge of physics, astronomy, or mathematics? If so, is there any evidence that remains to this day? One example might be this one. Often described as the world's first mechanical computer, it dates back over 2,000 years.
The Antikythera device was found in 1900 by sponge divers diving off a small island in the Aegean called Antikythera. There was a shipwreck there, and in it was a coral-encrusted box, and it was made of metal alloys. And it then went to the Athens Museum, where a good 50 years later, they were able to X-ray this box, and they were able to discern cogged wheels that were interconnected and give us a very good depiction of what this thing was. And it is a computer. It's a really sophisticated machine.
It's a very interesting piece of technology because it served two purposes. One was that it was an astronomical device where you could, by using it, chart your position to the stars and navigate your way through the seas. It was also an astrological device so that someone could tell you, if you were born on this date and your planet sign is this, then certain things are going to happen to you when the planets are in this alignment. So it was a very interesting piece of technology that literally had more complicated gears and inner workings than a modern-day Swiss watch. And it's found to be dated, I think, like 200 BC, so it's really an anomaly as to who could have created that and what it was being used for.
When archaeologists first started examining this thing in the 1950s, they said that they never could conceive of the ancient Greeks having such complicated machinery. And in fact, they said this was tantamount to finding a jet airplane in the tomb of King Tut.
Even older than the Antikythera mechanism are these carvings on a wall at the Dendera temple complex in Egypt. To some, the strange designs look eerily similar to objects very much in use today.
In Egypt, there is this underground crypt at Dendera that was always secret, and only the high priests had access to that crypt. And it's very hot in there, very narrow, low ceiling, and on the walls you have these reliefs of what looks like ancient light bulbs. Because we have to question one thing: how did the ancient Egyptians light the inside of their tombs?
According to most mainstream archaeologists, torches were used by the ancient Egyptians to light the pitch-black chambers of tombs and temples. Yet nowhere on the ceilings is there even the slightest evidence of soot or smoke residue. But how could the ancient Egyptians have used anything resembling a modern-day light bulb without access to electricity? After all, electricity wouldn't be discovered for thousands of years. That is, of course, with the exception of what scientists call the Baghdad battery.
The Baghdad battery was discovered in ancient Iraq. Scholars today say there's no way that ancient man was using electricity or light bulbs. So they look at this Baghdad battery, and there's about a dozen of them that have been found in Iraq, and the only mainstream theory is that they were using it for electroplating jewelry.
But ancient cave drawings and stone carvings aren't the only types of illustrations that fascinate ancient alien theorists. In 1929, historians discovered a map which had been painted onto a piece of gazelle hide. They traced the document back to a 16th century Turkish admiral named Piri Reis. But in stark contrast to other maps dating back to that time, the map depicts landmasses that were still, as yet, unexplored.
It shows the coast of Antarctica as it exists under the current ice cover. Now that's really pretty amazing, because it would tend to indicate that the map was made at a time when Antarctica was ice-free, which would be many millions of years ago.
The map also accurately charts the coasts of Europe and North Africa. But it's the illustration of northern Antarctica that truly astonishes ancient astronaut theorists, because this region wouldn't even be discovered for another 300 years.
We have to remember that Antarctica is covered by at least a mile thick ice. We didn't have ground-penetrating radar until 1958, so for a map to exist in 1531 accurately showing the topography is pretty interesting.
When cartographers superimposed the Piri Reis map over a modern map of the world, they were amazed to discover that the ancient chart was fantastically accurate in the most minute of details. But how could the creators of a centuries-old map have known of mountains or rivers that had yet to be discovered?
In 1531, I really don't know of anyone who was flying above the surface of the Earth high enough to map topography, and how would they see underneath the ice?
Their maps were so accurate. I mean, we know that they didn't go to Antarctica and explore it, but yet they were able to draw these maps of it.
But if ancient aliens possessed the technology to travel the universe, would the only evidence of their journey be in the form of a few carvings or a mysterious map? Wouldn't there also be signs of a highly advanced technology? Signs that might be too large to overlook. As one of the 7 wonders of the world, the Great Pyramid remains not only an archaeological mystery, but a geographical marvel. In 1877, author and theologian Joseph Seiss demonstrated that the Great Pyramid resides at the intersection of the longest line of latitude and the longest line of longitude, the exact center of all the landmass in the world. Also, each of its 4 sides aligns almost precisely with the 4 points of the compass, though such an instrument wasn't even designed until thousands of years later. Here in central Mexico stands an ancient city that dates back more than 2,000 years. Its name, Teotihuacan, literally means city of the gods. And located at its center is the Pyramid of the Sun. Incredibly, this pyramid's perimeter is virtually the same as that of the Great Pyramid of Giza. A structural coincidence? Or could it be that both were inspired by the same designers? Perhaps the most mystifying of all ancient sites lies just a few hundred yards away. Of relatively little interest to most visitors, Pumapunku is a field of stone ruins that both thrills and stimulates the imaginations of ancient alien theorists. The blocks of Pumapunku were so finely cut that they once perfectly interlocked, like the pieces of an elaborate puzzle. But with the nearest quarry over 10 miles away, how did these colossal stones, some weighing hundreds of tons, even get here?
One of these platforms is 800 tons, and they are so smoothly polished. You have some stone, megalithic stones, with grooves which are just a few millimeters inside, which definitely cannot be made with Stone Age chisels. It doesn't work with Stone Age chisels, so there is another technology behind it.
The lines cut into these rocks are exactly straight and precisely the same depth from one end to the other.
American professors who were up there with their computer and modern measurements, they were really shocked. In their literature they say it is impossible to reconstruct Pumapunku. It's absolutely impossible.
But is it really difficult to believe that ancient peoples could have so precisely carved these stones, or could build such an incredibly intricate structure from them?